Welcome. Today, we will talk about the life of one of the most important leaders of the 20th century, Winston Churchill, and the marks he left on history. If you're ready, let's begin. Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill was born on November 30, 1874, in the Oxfordshire region of England, near Blenheim Palace. His father, Lord Randolph Churchill, was one of the most influential British politicians of the time. His mother, Jenny Jerome, was an American, a social figure from a powerful family. Winston's childhood was spent in a wealthy but complex family environment. The contrasting characters of Lord Randolph and Jenny Jerome deeply influenced Winston's personality. His father was ambitious, disciplined, and politically focused. His mother was active and flamboyant in social circles. Growing up under the shadow of these two strong personalities, Winston experienced a certain distance from his family during childhood, which contributed to developing his independent and observant nature. His school life was not very bright. When he started at Harrow School, he fell behind academically and faced disciplinary issues. He struggled with mathematics and classical subjects but was interested in history and literature. His curiosity about historical events laid the foundation for his later success in both writing and strategic thinking. Spending time with books nurtured Winston's imagination and intellectual growth. In 1888, he was accepted into the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst. Here, he gained physical training, discipline, and leadership skills. His years at Sandhurst played a crucial role in shaping his character. After graduating as an officer in 1893, he joined the army and was sent to India, where he reinforced his military training with field experience. His assignments in India and Sudan gave him strategic thinking skills and keen observation abilities. Observing military operations in Sudan, in particular, provided experiences that would influence his future political and military decisions. In 1897, he worked as a war correspondent during the Second Malakand campaign. Witnessing the harsh realities of war left a lasting impression on the young Churchill. He learned about the brutality of war, the importance of strategic decisions, and the responsibilities of leadership. During this period, Churchill also began to engage in writing. He turned his travels and observations into books, not only sharing his experiences but also building an intellectual profile. His early writings and war reports laid the foundation for his later literary career. Writing and journalism helped young Churchill organize his thoughts and develop his ability to communicate with the public. Winston Churchill's childhood and youth were a turning point that shaped his personality and leadership abilities. Both the influences from his family and the experiences he lived through gave him the essential qualities that would make him one of Britain's greatest leaders in the future. Military service was a crucial period in Churchill's life, shaping his character and preparing him for politics. After graduating from the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst, he joined the army in 1895 at the age of 21. That same year, his father, Lord Randolph Churchill, passed away from a severe illness. This was a major trauma for Winston. He admired his father but had never been truly close to him. His father's early death both matured Winston and made him more determined in life. In 1896, Churchill was sent to India as part of the British Army. There, he served in Bangalore with the 4th Hussars Cavalry Regiment. India was both a distant and adventurous place for a young officer. Churchill devoted his free time to reading. He eagerly studied books on history, philosophy, politics, and strategy. He improved himself by examining the works of authors such as Plato, Gibbon, and Macaulay. During his time in India, clashes occurred with tribes along the northwest frontier. Churchill participated in these operations and came face to face with the harsh realities of war. These experiences deeply influenced his future understanding of military strategy. Winston Churchill was not just a soldier, he was also a gifted writer. In 1897, while serving in India, he began writing as a war correspondent. He sent articles to newspapers such as the Daily Telegraph and the Pioneer. In his writings, he shared both his battlefield observations and his political analyses. Churchill's articles quickly attracted attention. His vivid and detailed storytelling style fascinated readers. He was not only a fighting soldier but also an observant thinker. In 1898, Churchill took part in the Battle of Omdurman in Sudan. This battle was one of the bloodiest cavalry charges in history. There, Churchill personally witnessed how modern weapons and tactics changed the course of warfare. He compiled these experiences in his book The River War. The book was not just a memoir but also a critical perspective on the colonial mindset of warfare during that era. In 1899, the Second Boer War broke out in South Africa. Churchill went to the region as a war correspondent for the Morning Post. There, an event occurred that would become a turning point in his life. He was captured by Boer forces during a train ambush and taken to a prison camp. However, he soon devised a daring escape plan. In the darkness, alone in enemy territory, he traveled hundreds of kilometers and managed to escape. This escape caused a huge sensation in England. Churchill instantly became a national hero. People saw him not only as a soldier but also as a fearless adventurer and leader. Churchill later turned his Boer War experiences into books. London to Ladysmith via Pretoria and Ian Hamilton's March attracted great interest. Each book he wrote increased his fame. He was no longer just an officer but also one of Britain's most prominent young writers. During this period, Churchill's interest shifted from the military to politics. His ability to put his military experiences into writing made him a public figure. His newspaper articles, books, and daring escape story boosted his popularity among the public. By the end of 1899, when Churchill returned to England, everyone was talking about him. Young, energetic, fearless, and a powerful writer, these qualities had prepared the ground for his entry into politics. In 1900, at just 26 years old, Winston Churchill entered Parliament. His heroism during the Boer War was still a major topic in Britain. In the eyes of the public, he had earned a reputation as a brave soldier and an intelligent writer. Thanks to this popularity, he was elected as a member of Parliament for the Conservative Party. When he first entered Parliament, he was young, energetic, and ambitious. He delivered his speeches with confidence. However, he soon began to disagree with the policies of the Conservative Party. His views on social justice, workers' rights, and economic reforms did not align with the party's stance. In 1904, Churchill made a radical decision and joined the Liberal Party. This was a bold but risky move in his career. At the time, many people criticized this decision. However, Churchill wanted to be part of a political platform that aligned with his beliefs. In the Liberal Party, he found an opportunity to focus on social reforms. One of Churchill's main goals during this period was to protect the rights of the working class during Britain's industrialization. He opposed child labor, advocated for workplace safety measures, and emphasized the need to strengthen the social welfare system. In the 1906 elections, the Liberal Party achieved a major victory. As a result, Churchill was appointed to various government positions. He first served at the Colonial Office and later became president of the Board of Trade. As president, he worked on laws to protect workers' rights. He implemented reforms on labor insurance, workplace accident compensation, and job safety. During this period, Churchill played an important role in laying the foundations of the welfare state in Britain. His popularity grew among the working class, but he faced criticism from aristocratic circles and conservatives. In 1911, Churchill was appointed First Lord of the Admiralty. This position marked a turning point in his career. At that time, war clouds were gathering over Europe. Germany was rapidly strengthening its navy, challenging Britain's naval supremacy. Churchill took major steps to modernize the British Navy. He encouraged the use of oil instead of coal to power ships, a decision that revolutionized Britain's energy policy. He equipped the Navy with new technologies and emphasized the importance of air power. He was among those who foresaw that aircraft carriers would play a major role in the future. When World War I broke out in 1914, Churchill worked to prepare Britain for war with a strong navy. However, his most controversial decision came in 1915 with the Dardanelles campaign. The operation in the Dardanelles Strait against the Ottoman Empire ended in a devastating failure. Thousands of British and Allied soldiers lost their lives. This failure dealt a heavy blow to Churchill's political career. He faced harsh criticism from both the public and Parliament and was forced to resign from his post. During this period, he was almost completely sidelined. But Churchill did not give up. Instead of withdrawing from politics, he sought active duty at the front. He volunteered to serve on the Western Front during the Battle of the Somme. For a government minister to fight alongside soldiers on the battlefield was a remarkable sign of his character. He was someone who did not fear taking risks and learned from his mistakes. The months he spent at the front taught him great humility. He lived in the same mud as the soldiers and endured the same hardships. This experience added a new dimension to his leadership approach in the future. In 1917, Churchill returned to government, this time as Minister of Munitions. In the later stages of the war, he organized Britain's weapons and ammunition production. He fulfilled this duty with great success and gradually regained his reputation. In 1939, when Germany invaded Poland, World War II began. Britain, along with France, declared war on Germany. At this point, Winston Churchill was called back into government. He was first appointed First Lord of the Admiralty. Just as he had been at the start of World War I, Churchill's energy and determination immediately stood out. By 1940, the situation had become much more serious. Germany, using its blitzkrieg, or lightning war tactic, occupied France in a very short time. Britain was left alone. At this point, Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain was blamed for failure and forced to resign. The successor was clear: Winston Churchill. On May 10, 1940, Churchill became Prime Minister of Britain. This was the peak of his political career, but also the toughest job in history. For Britain was now facing Nazi Germany, which had conquered almost all of Europe. Shortly after becoming Prime Minister, Churchill delivered his famous first speech to the British people. "I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears and sweat. We have before us an ordeal of the most grievous kind, but our aim is victory." These words lifted the morale of the British people. Churchill was not just a politician, but also a master orator. Through his speeches, he persuaded the people to resist. He became a leader who inspired courage during the darkest days. Churchill's first major test as Prime Minister was Dunkirk. During the German invasion of France, hundreds of thousands of British and French soldiers were trapped on the beaches of Dunkirk. Rescuing them seemed almost impossible, but Churchill launched the evacuation plan called Operation Dynamo. In addition to hundreds of warships, every type of vessel, from fishing boats to passenger ferries, was used. More than 338,000 soldiers were miraculously brought back to Britain. This was a tremendous moral victory. Churchill described the event as not a deliverance, but a great hope. After the fall of France, Hitler set his sights on Britain. In the summer of 1940, the German Luftwaffe began bombing Britain. This period went down in history as the Battle of Britain. German aircraft bombed London and many cities day and night, but Britain held firm. The Royal Air Force, RAF, though heavily outnumbered, fought with incredible courage. Churchill immortalized the heroism of the pilots with these famous words: "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few." This quote became legendary. Britain prevented invasion, and for the first time, the tide of the war began to turn. One of Churchill's greatest strategic goals was to bring the United States into the war. Britain was struggling to resist Germany alone. Churchill built a close relationship with U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt. In 1941, the Atlantic Charter was published. This document laid the foundations for the post-war world order. It included principles of democracy, freedom, and international cooperation. This charter would later pave the way for the creation of the United Nations. In December 1941, after Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States officially entered the war. Churchill was overjoyed by this news, for Britain was no longer alone. In the same year, Germany attacked the Soviet Union. Churchill had always been opposed to Bolshevism, but in the fight against Hitler, the Soviets became the most important ally. Churchill was pragmatic. "I would make a pact with the devil," he said as he cooperated with Stalin. Churchill traveled to Moscow several times to meet with Stalin. Their relationship was difficult and tense, but a common enemy brought them together. One of the major turning points of the war was in North Africa. In 1942, at the Battle of El Alamein, British forces under General Montgomery defeated German General Rommel. Churchill described this victory as, "This is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end, but it is, perhaps, the end of the beginning." Then, in 1944, history was made. The Allies launched the Normandy landings, D-Day. Churchill played a major role in planning this operation. On June 6, 1944, the landings began, marking the start of the liberation of Western Europe. When World War II ended, Winston Churchill was a hero in the eyes of the entire world. He was the man who had led Britain from its darkest days to victory. The people saw him as the symbol of triumph. Yet this was the nature of democracy. As soon as the war ended, the public wanted change. In the 1945 general election, Churchill's Conservative Party suffered a crushing defeat. The Labour Party came to power, and Clement Attlee became Prime Minister. This result shocked everyone. Churchill had won the war but lost political power. He accepted this outcome with grace. The great leader who had saluted the crowds from balconies during the victory days now found himself sitting in the opposition benches. But he never gave up, because his greatest strength in life was his ability to rise again. Right after the war, the world entered a new era, the Cold War. The United States and the Soviet Union had become superpowers. In 1946, in a famous speech delivered in Fulton, Missouri, Churchill used words that would go down in history. From Stettin in the Baltic to Trieste in the Adriatic, an iron curtain has descended across the continent. This phrase became one of the defining symbols of the Cold War's beginning. Churchill openly warned that Soviet-controlled Eastern Europe posed a major threat. This speech shaped the Western stance against the USSR. Despite losing in 1945, Churchill did not leave politics. He remained in opposition, wrote extensively, and traveled the world. In 1951, he won the election again and became Prime Minister for a second time at the age of 77. During this term, he was much more cautious due to the toll of the war and his advancing age. Britain was no longer a global superpower. The United States and the Soviet Union were shaping the world. Churchill recognized this reality, yet he still worked to ensure that Britain played an important role on the world stage. In 1953, at the age of 79, he suffered a stroke. His health continued to deteriorate, and in 1955 he resigned as Prime Minister, marking the end of his political career. Churchill was not only a statesman but also a prolific writer. He authored history books, biographies, and memoirs. His 6-volume account of World War II remains one of the most widely read war memoirs ever written. In 1953, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature. The Nobel Committee cited his mastery of historical and biographical description, as well as for brilliant oratory in defending exalted human values. This award revealed another side of Churchill. He was not only a leader but also a writer and thinker. After retiring from politics, Churchill spent his final years at his estate in Chartwell. He continued to write, painted, and enjoyed time with his grandchildren. He also maintained correspondence with world leaders. In 1965, at the age of 90, he passed away. In modern times, Britain had held a state funeral for only 2 people, Queen Victoria and Winston Churchill. During his funeral, leaders from across the globe gathered in London. And that concludes our journey through the life of Winston Churchill. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Share your thoughts about Churchill in the comments. See you in the next documentary.